Thank you so much for joining me today. The first question is, what initially sparked your interest in music and how did your passion develop over time?
So I'm thinking of events that happened when I was 3 and 4 years old. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing I remember about being attracted to music was when I was, I think, three, and my parents and I went to visit an aunt and uncle and their children, my cousins. And it was nighttime, and I wandered off in their house to a room where they had an upright piano. And I remember reaching up to the keys to play the keys one at a time. And I was particularly attracted to the ones all the way at the bottom of the piano because they sounded so incredibly spooky. And so that stuck in my mind somehow. And the other one was, I think, when I was four, because my parents had a little record player and some vinyls, 7-inch, 45 RPM vinyls of pop songs. And I wore them out. I just kept playing them over and over again. So those are things I remember, earliest things. How did that develop? I was very lucky because my another aunt gave me her piano when she was moving and couldn't use the old piano, and it was a big, bulky upright, and I was given piano lessons. I was so lucky. Because honestly, we didn't have any money, so I don't know where the money came from for the piano lessons, but so I had piano lessons from the age of 7, and that really kept my interest growing because I got very interested in hearing a lot of things and playing a lot of things. That's how that happened.
And did you continue over the years? Obviously, if you're a music teacher now, but how did you balance your studies in when you were growing up in school and college, and how did you balance your music with your studies, and did you do any other extracurriculars that you felt were taking up a lot of your time?
So, other extracurriculars, let's talk about high school and earlier first. High school and earlier, there were no other extracurriculars. Um, and so was, I did not give enough time to piano practice. I'm sure of that. It was about an hour a day. Um, but there was a very strict routine of coming home from school and not even changing out of school clothes, just sitting down at the piano and practicing for an hour or so. Um, and schoolwork, although I'm saying this immodestly perhaps, but I got really good grades, but I was a terrible student. You know that happens to people sometimes, right? And so I was not a good steward of my time. I just, I squandered a lot of time. But part of the squandering was um, also sitting at the piano extra time and studying orchestra scores and studying other pieces of music that I wasn't learning to play because of my curiosity. And actually, that's when I started composing. Also, I was just um, fascinated by writing down what I wanted to hear first, just myself play, and then trying to imagine other instruments and voices, what they would sound like. And so I kind of went through high school doing those things. In college, I started studying sciences. I was a chemistry major first. And I kept practicing the piano as I could, but that was not working so well. And my interest in science, I realized was not strong enough to make that a career. And I really felt like I had to do music because that would satisfy me, where the way science wouldn't satisfy me. Um, so that happened while I was in college. I think And then there's half of the question, that next question that says, how did my family react? Along those years in high school and before, when I would talk to my mother and say, well, what if I was a musician? And she would say, oh no, you shouldn't be a musician. Musicians have bad habits, and musicians, the life is very uncertain because you have to keep yourself employed. It's too tricky, and you're good at science, so be a scientist. And I think I was doing parental wish fulfillment, right? Um, until I just couldn't take it anymore. And so I said I needed to do this change. Actually, by a series of accidents, a conductor discovered me conducting in college and and said in his Hungarian accent, "My boy, you're wasting your time here. Come with me." And he offered me a scholarship to the Peabody Conservatory, as it was called in those days. It's now a division of Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. And I went to Baltimore and started studying music, piano and conducting, and also composition. And so um, I did not complete parental wish fulfillment. Uh, anyway, I'm sure I've left out parts of the questions that we've already talked about. So, is there anything I should fill in?
No, that was very nice. I didn't know that you were originally a chemistry major.
Yeah, yeah.
What are some challenges that you've had to face throughout your many years of being a musician?
Well, um, sometimes it is indeed a question of finding employment. Especially, I spent a number of years in England singing, and um, and that was very interesting. We can come back to that later, perhaps. But when I came back from England and wanted to work in New York, see, this was a high school ambition of mine, tucked in the back of my mind, that um, when I walked past Lincoln Center, I would say to myself, I really want to work there. I want to work there, which was a struggle. And then when I came back to New York, I still said, I want to work there. And I just heard that there was a vacancy for an assistant chorus master at New York City Opera. And that I went to the audition for that and got that job. But that was after several years, yeah, maybe three, no, 5 years, 5 years of freelance accompanying singers, and that was my job, playing for singers, um, playing in very advanced singing teachers' studios where they would just throw music at on the piano desk and say, "Play that." My singer is singing, play that, right? Which was, wow, sight reading, things that you never heard before. That was great. So actually finding a job at New York City Opera was overcome overcoming a struggle because the studio work with singers was not very remunerative. Um, so I would say that was the biggest struggle those years before I got the job at New York City Opera. Yeah.
And I know that you've worked many roles. You've played the piano, you've conducted, and now you're a teacher for our course. Um, do you have a favorite role or a favorite thing that you like to do that you prefer, like even if you like all of them?
So I did indeed like all of them while I was doing each one. Sometimes they got a little sort of weary, like I've done enough of that for this many years or that many years. Um, and so I guess what I could say is that I liked the one that I was doing at the time the best. And that's still true because working at the children's chorus at the Met is my favorite one so far. Yeah.
It's very nice. Um, and I know you use your skills, your piano and conducting skills to help like us at the children's chorus. So do you have any like advice of roles that even if you don't have a single like job right now, what other experience do you think that other people can get if they have a goal of becoming a conductor or a pianist?
Uh, they're not very specific advice, but just um, stay curious, learn everything that you can. Don't, um, let's say, for people who are high school age and younger, yeah, be very, very curious about anything that interests you. Um, Open as many doors as you can, knowledge doors, um, experience doors, like going to events, um, studying and in an extracurricular sort of way by yourself, opening books and um, watching videos that relate to anything of interest to you. Like throw yourself in. Um, it's easy these days for people to connect to entertainment of all kinds, but it's really important to sort of dig into areas that you really think you might like to work in and find out as much about those as possible. If you meet someone who works in that sphere, and you have the opportunity perhaps to ask them for a similar question, like, this is what I have studied. What else should I look at? What should I become familiar with? Because sometimes people are nice enough to think for a second and answer a question like that. Um, and that's very helpful, I think.
And last question, but do you have one specific person or mentor that really helped you figure out how to get where you wanted to go? I know you spoke earlier about the person who found you at college and offered you a scholarship, but uh could you be more specific or is there someone else that you want to talk about?
So um, there are a couple of people. I would say the next one was the second piano teacher that I had at music college, um, who was a person of very wide experience, both as a pianist and as a writer on music. And um, he also knew so many world famous musicians that he corresponded with, that he sat down and talked with, that he visited. And so he had a very wide scope of knowledge. And he was my teacher for 3 years, I think. And so he would sit and talk to me and say, this is what you're good at. This is what you're not so good at. You have to realize these things. And I think that that's a very helpful way of somebody, if you know somebody who will talk to you honestly and say, these are the things you're good at. These are the things you're not so good at. Don't waste your time pursuing those. Really stick with the ones that you're good at and open some more doors there. Open some more books. Yeah. And that was really good. Yeah, he was Conrad Wolf. Conrad Wolf. He was a terrific person, and he helped me a lot that way. Yeah.
That's very nice. And you said earlier that you would touch back on your studies in England. So,
Oh yeah. So I was for a long time fascinated by the way they make music in England. Now we're going back a couple of decades, few decades, And when I would listen to recordings um, of chamber music, and when I listened to recordings of choral music, I was very fascinated by some differences that I heard in tone quality and in ensemble playing. And I thought, "Oh, I really want to go over there and find out what's going on." And I did. This was before there were so many restrictions on being able to stay in a country like the United Kingdom. And so while I was there, I managed to sing in a few cathedral choirs. Um, in a place called Lichfield in the Midlands, and then in Canterbury, and then finally in London. And I developed my singing there. I developed my understanding of singing there, and sang a lot of music with almost no rehearsal. Now, that's a very interesting thing. When you just walk into a rehearsal uh, half an hour before the performance is going to happen, and they say, "This is the music, and we're going to start on page 11." And you open to page 11, and you've never seen this music before, and you practice it with the conductor, right? And then half an hour later, you're performing it in front of people. And that that was a daily experience for a number of years. And it was really helpful to, sort of learn how to pick up a piece of music and just play it or sing it, right? Um, um, yeah, that was very interesting. But I'm not sure I answered your question.
Dude, that was a good answer.
Oh, good.
That's all the questions that I had, but thank you so much for joining.
You are very, very welcome. It was a pleasure. And I wish you good luck with your project.
You.
Thank you.